Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, we are finishing, or we did finish, The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, and we're going to talk about it now that we finished it. We did the final 4 chapters, 72 through 75, and then the epilogue and the end note and all that good stuff at the end of the book. In these chapters, we kind of wrap things up in some ways. Like, Kaladin gets a new job. Shallan and Yasna, we get some more revelations from them, and then a final vision for Dalinar, which results in even more revelations. And we wrap things up with the epilogue is our good friend Wit doing some Wit things, just hoiding it up, as it were.
I was about to say, is he our friend, though? I feel like he's not anybody's friend.
But I'm Data, and with me today is...
Jack?
Jamie?
And Joe. I already spoke, so I guess you already know I'm here, but I'm here anyway.
Joe's not here, actually. It's a ghost.
Recording.
This is a recording.
Yeah, I pre-recorded like a ton of responses, and Data's just like strategically editing them in so it sounds like I'm here. Really, what we did is we've just got some AI, and it's just it's me, but it's not me.
Every so often you're just gonna hear a ha ha. Yes.
We would gradually replace everybody with AI.
Deep fake.
Joe's AI is just called like Fuck Spook, the AI.
Yeah. It's true.
So yeah, hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin. So yeah, 4 chapters plus some things. So we've wrapped up The Way of Kings. What did you guys think of the end of this book?
I think I must have gotten it in my head from some of the previous books that there would be a lot more chaos in the final chapters than there actually was. But no, this is like compared to, say, the original Mistborn, the end of this book. The last few chapters were a bit more sedate, but still setting up things for it seemed a lot more focused on setting up things for the future, and it was a nice tie off. I quite liked the ending. Still some bombshells being dropped, especially by Shallan and Yasna, which blew my mind a bit. But I'm just like, oh, okay, no, I can kind of see it. That sort of makes sense. So that was good. I liked Kaladin and Dalinar's interaction that gives me hope for the future, which means something about that's going to get crushed, I'm sure. And poor Dalinar. Turns out he's actually just been he got stuck on a loop in God's abandoned VCR, something with God's home movies, or his last will or something. I don't know. But I loved Wit's perspective. We don't really get much backstory or any really further stuff to learn about him as a person, but just the way he thinks, the way he operates, and what he's even doing. He's like, oh, I'm going to come into the city and just sit on these random boxes, and the guard's like, the fuck? And he just muses, and and everything he has to say. I'm just like, man, this is incredibly true. It was just fascinating to read, and then ending with, well, holy shit, I did not expect to see that character show up ever. So, yeah, fun and games.
Yeah, it's funny because, like you say, when we knew that there was going to be a Wit chapter, it's like, ooh, what are we going to learn about? Nothing. We're not going to learn anything about Hoid, but he's going to talk a bunch and be amusing.
Yep.
And then, of course, as you pointed out, we've got a guy that maybe nobody thought we would meet, at least, especially just to show up at the end of a book and be like, hey, I'm here, by the way.
It took me forever as well, because I read this not long after we finished, maybe like a day after we finished recording the last episode. And then I spent like a couple of days just going, I know that name and I don't know where I know it from. And then I sort of had a flash of insight. Oh, hang on a minute, skip back to the prelude. And I'm like, oh, it's him. It's the one who got left behind. unless I'm wrong. Did I get that right?
You are right.
Yeah, okay.
That was my interpretation also.
Yeah. Cool. No, nice to know I didn't ruin that one. Yeah, I'm just like, all right, cool. What does this mean?
What indeed? Not only that, but the fact that Hoyt is sitting there like expecting him apparently.
Yeah, don't know what to make of that.
What could it mean? Yeah,
It's a tantalizing hook for the sequel.
Right? Just ready for that next one already. We're not going straight into it, but not too far off either.
Ballin'.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good wrap up to the book. I'm glad we kind of got all of the key players a final perspective from them. Really happy that Kaladin and Dalinar are going to work together. Actually, really happy that Dalinar made it through the book alive. I think that's better than him dying in the book, so I was quite happy about that. Yeah, the thing about the Parshendi being the Voidbringers, I was like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, but it's kind of cool, and it's good because you've got Yasna who's interested in them, you've got Dalinar who's interested in them, you've got Kaladin has provoked them time and time again. It's good that that's going to come in to the next book, so I'm keen to get all those players together in the future. Yeah, Dalinar's vision, going through all of that to then be like, huh? Just I didn't get the whole vision last time, so that's interesting. We'll see what happens with him in the future. If there's any more visions for him, maybe they're done. I don't know. And Wit, I would read a whole book from Wit's perspective, just the commentary on, just the other people and things that are happening, and just the world according to Wit. That's the book that I want.
Maybe there's a book out there from Wit's perspective,
and maybe there is. Wouldn't know. Not allowed to know anything about anything until we get there. Maybe the next Stormlight archive book that comes out is all from Wit's
There you go.
perspective.
It's all that would be a real big change from this one, wouldn't it?
It would. It would.
The time of
but
Wit.
I think on the whole, it was a good way to wrap the book, as we've wrapped books previously. And I remember from Mistborn, the very first book that we read, and you were like, it was a standalone story, but we didn't feel it wrapped up enough.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we knew it was going into the extra book, so it wasn't a huge deal. And then we've had Warbreaker that was like, boom, really, really abrupt ending. And it's like, what is this? I think this one, it's tied up what it needed to tie up now. It's given you enough hooks for the next one. I'm quite happy with where it ended.
Good. You guys have been sort of dissatisfied with the endings a couple times, so I'm always glad when we get to the end and you're like, you know what? I feel satisfied.
The story's not over. There's plenty of unanswered questions, but you also know there's plenty of books still to go. So it's okay. The stuff that has to be answered now is answered now. Some things that we didn't know needed to be answered now have been answered now.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's cool. And once again, it's true to form for Brandon dropping things throughout the book that you don't even quite register until you come to the end and go, oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. And once again, we hadn't talked about it last time, because the last time is when, like, part 5 is the part of revelations here in this book, and so there were a few things revealed suddenly last time where it was like, oh, the hints were sprinkled in there at least a little bit, and we have some more of, like you said, we have more of that in this in these chapters as well, where it's like, ooh, some of this was hinted at.
Yep, right before our faces.
That's how he gets you. Those are my favorite, when you get there and you're like, oh, it was right there. Why did I not see it?
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes you're Jamie and you predict that the Lord Ruler is really Rashek because you picked up on all of those hints and you correctly figured it out. So it can happen both ways.
I peaked early. Yeah.
It's all been downhill for Jamie.
It's all been downhill since then.
Peaked early. That was funny. Yeah, look, it's a good ending. I do think still kind of abrupt, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But no, I enjoyed this book pretty thoroughly. I think because of its size, and maybe this is just because it's the first one, maybe the ones after this won't suffer from this. I think because of the size of the story and what was actually told in the story, there are some things that I have issues with as far as pacing go, based on where we ended. But overall, I really liked this last section. I didn't predict that we would get much more revelations in this last little bit that we read, but we did, and so that was cool to be able to get those pieces and kind of put some things together that we didn't really know before. So I didn't guess a lot of this stuff would happen. Didn't think a lot of it would be the case. So that was pretty interesting. I enjoyed the wit stuff maybe less than I was actually hoping for. When we finally got to him, I was kind of excited, and then I was like, oh, this is like not what I wanted.
Not
like
what you expected. Yeah.
No, it wasn't really what I expected, what I wanted. And honestly, he came off a little too what's the word I'm looking for? Sometimes, and I'm not saying this is always a bad thing, sometimes you can tell Brandon's really nerdy. And I think wit in this chapter, like I could tell it was written by a nerd. And like I just was kind of like, this isn't like the characterization of him that I'm usually like used to getting. And it doesn't feel like it fits, but maybe that's just me putting my own personal stuff onto it. I did connect that guy to the Prelude once he said who he was. Obviously, I was like, oh, it's that guy. And so yeah, I'm like formulating thoughts of like, okay, so this guy's back, but he's like, they left him alone to deal with all of whatever they were dealing with, and like, could he have been doing it this whole entire time? Like, that's what's been going through my head, and now he's finally like, I can't do it anymore. I gotta go. I gotta leave this place, and that's why like the desolation's coming, is because he couldn't hold out anymore and be killed over and over. He was like, nah, I can't do this anymore. So I'd be interested to know, if I'm right about that, if that's what's going on with this dude, and kind of where it's gonna go from here, because it's like, whoa, this guy's.
He lasted for like 4,000 or 4,500, I forget however many years. That's pretty impressive. So
yeah, he's like, he's like Doctor Strange, like Dormammu. I've come to bargain, but he couldn't do it anymore. He's the Dormammu in this situation. He's like, stop this. But yeah, so like I'm excited because I don't know where we're going. Some things wrapped up the way that I thought they would, and other things wrapped up in a different way. We have confirmation of some things that we were thinking must be on the horizon, so that's exciting. And I know we're going to take a short break, but I'm excited to get into the second book. I'm hoping, for my own personal enjoyment, that the pace picks up a little bit, because I think this first one was a little too slow.
Yeah, but it's definitely a slow burn here.
Yeah, and I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but we'll get into that when I kind of give my overall review of the book at the end. So, but yeah, I'm excited to read the next one.
It's kind of a common complaint among fans that this one especially starts slow.
Yeah. Well, if that's a common complaint about this one specifically, then that gives me hope that maybe like going forward they're not quite as slow, which would be good.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide. Like, I'm trying to think about, do I feel like the other ones move at a quicker pace? I feel like more things happen, and maybe more important things happen now that we've set the groundwork for some things.
Right.
And so maybe that.
Which it makes sense, like based on how much he was willing to reveal in the first book. It makes sense why it had to be slower, but I feel like there were probably too many chapters where we were kind of spinning our wheels waiting for something to happen. In a book this large, I feel like you shouldn't have that many chapters like that. So, I get it. Like, you want to spoon feed us a little bit at a time to make it compelling and like interesting and exciting. But at the same time, I feel like it was a little too slow.
Well, I guess we shall find out.
Yup.
We will all find out together.
Well, you already know, but yeah.
Well, and then the thing, I'm sitting here like, does it? I guess maybe. I don't know. So I'll get to see through you, because it's hard to take my opinion and
I guess that's true,
because you kind of think.
Right, you kind of rushed through these books originally when you read them, so you probably weren't as concerned by the pacing because you got through it faster.
Yeah, I got through it fast, and I've reread them many times, and so it's like I don't really have the same perspective as other people. And that's even aside from the fact that everyone has different opinions on that kind of thing oftentimes anyway. So.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. If I'd have read this in my own time, I may not have the same amount of issues with it as far as pacing, but I don't know.
Well, I guess that's fair. Let's move into these chapters. These have a good pacing because we're just wrapping everything up now. And it's just like, let's tell you things.
Yeah, these were great. I think the longest chapter said it was going to take 12 minutes to read, and I think our longer chapters normally were like 27 to 30-minute reads. And so, yeah, these were like, oh yeah, these are nice, quick, and to the point.
Next week's segment is going to be a nice long read for you guys because we're reading a whole short story.
Right.
Wouldn't be the first time.
No.
True. So, first thing, we come back to Shalon and Yasna, right where we left them once again, for the Verist Italian chapter, which now I'm just thinking about it as Italians. Veritas would be like truth, so true Italians.
True Italians.
And so Shalon's like, wait, before I read the stuff you gave me, I need to figure out what happened here. So you soul cast my blood. She's like, yeah, to remove the poison. I had to soul cast your blood several times, actually, and get you to vomit. And she's like, but you're not good with organics, you said. She's like, no, blood isn't the same. It's one of the essences with a capital E. And actually, the essences get brought up in the Ars Arcanum, and we will talk about that a little bit when we get there. But suffice to say, it's easier to make the 8 kinds of blood than it is to create water. So
8 kinds of blood?
Yep, 8 kinds of blood. I mean, does that mean blood types?
Yeah, blood types, I guess. They have
that makes more sense.
More blood types. We have 8 blood types, don't we?
I have no idea. I don't even remember.
Let's see. There's A, B. We have more than 8 blood types, actually.
Is it? I thought it was A, B, AB, and O, and they've all got a positive and negative. Or am I wrong?
Yes, but those are different types. The positive and negative.
Yeah. So that's 8, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Well, you got 4, the 4 letter combinations, and then they've all got a positive and negative. So
A, B.
So 12?
A, B, A, B, A, B. Oh, no, you're right. Yeah, so 4 and then times 2. Yeah.
Who do I look like? Karl Landsteiner? Discoverer of blood groups?
Yeah.
Did you just Google that while we were talking about it?
No, that's an Archer line.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was going to give my blood type, but that's probably information that nobody needs.
I always remember the Archer line because because I don't remember my own blood type, and that's the scene where she's like, what's your blood type? And he's like, who am I, Karl Landsteiner? And then everyone stares at him. He's like, discoverer of blood groups? And she's like, you don't know your own blood type, but you know who discovered them. He's like, yeah, and?
Righto.
So that's me. Okay. So there's 8 types of blood in this world anyway. I wonder if one of them is crab blood.
Probably.
Yeah. The crabbiest of blood.
And so then Shalon brings up a question that you guys kind of made an assumption about last time, or at least Joe did, where it's like, so the Ardents who use soul casters, is that fake too? And she's like, oh, no. Soul casting fabrials are very real. So far as I know, everyone else who does it uses one of those.
I did make an assumption, and I was wrong.
It happens.
Proof positive that I do not read ahead and do not know everything about these books.
And so she's like, okay, well, what about the symbol heads? Do you see those guys too? Or is that just me? And Yasna's like, wait, you see people like this in Shadesmar? She's like, no, they appear in my drawings. They're like all around me. And Yasna's like, okay, they're a type of spren. They're related to what you do.
Did not see that coming.
No, I didn't see that coming either. They seem very large to be spren.
I mean, Syl can look as big as a person.
I guess that's true. But that was also a recent revelation.
That's true, too.
There was that one really big whale-looking one out in the bay where...
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Like the tattooed guy was doing his spren
That's
research.
Right. It was like a tidal wave spren or something.
Something like that. I think of it as a whale.
It just showed up at the same time every day, and no one really knew what was up with it. So Yasna says 2 orders of the Knights Radiant possessed inherent soul-casting abilities. And actually, I think the original Fabrials are based on their powers. And she says, I'd assume that you... But no, that obviously wouldn't make sense, I see now. And Shalon's like, what? And Yasna's like, I'll explain it to you. Suffice it to say, each Radiant's abilities were tied to the spren. She's like, I'm not going to get into any of this right now. We have other stuff that we need to talk about.
I mean, I guess that sort of makes sense with what little we know about Kaladin's radiant powers and Syl kind of being responsible for them in some way.
Yeah.
Which makes me think, does Seth also have a spren buddy who's hanging around?
That's a good question.
I think we've asked that before, actually. And yeah, I mean, if he does, we haven't seen it.
Spren buddy!
I mean,
imaginary friend.
Shalon doesn't actually see these spren either. She only in her drawings. So maybe.
Yeah, and they creep her the F out. And also, like, like they have a disembodied voice that talks to her, and she's like, oh, and they want her secrets, which is also weird.
Give me secrets.
Give me secrets. I killed my dad. That's a really good one. Okay.
It's like solid secret. Okay.
Dude, we're so connected now. I feel it.
That's where I saw the leprechaun. He told me to
tells me
burn
to
things.
I choose you?
Somebody in D&D the other day just it's like the team decided that we were going to sleep, and I think it was Recon. He's like, sleep, that's where I'm a Viking.
Classic.
Which is a classic Ralph line, which I learned at some point. Apparently the meaning of it is debated even by the writers on the show.
What?
Of whether Ralph means like he's really good at it and somehow being really good at it is equivalent to being a Viking, or if he
really
means
good at sleeping.
yeah,
What?
or if he means when he goes to sleep he has dreams where he's a Viking.
I feel like it has to be the second one. Like, what would the writers even be trying to say with the first one?
Well,
How
apparently
is it not the second one?
Apparently the guy who originally wrote it like saw it the first way. I think I don't remember the exact, and then somebody else, one of like the head writer later was like, no, Ralph is in no way capable of that kind of metaphorical thinking.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Like, being good at something isn't equivocal to being a Viking.
But yes, some classic Simpsons jokes. That's apparently not the only one that the writers disagree on the meaning of the joke. There's some Homer lines like that. But anyway, we won't dive into Simpsons.
We won't digress too far to Simpsons. I understand. Not today, anyway.
And so
Dak's mind is blown.
So Shalon is like, why are you looking up Voidbringers? I read some of your notes. And Yas is like, you what? I was looking for information on soul casting. And Yas is like, I mean, fine. I suppose it's the least of your crime. And Yasna explains that basically she thinks that the legend of the Voidbringers has what she calls a real world correlate. So there's something that those legends are based on, and she's trying to discover what that is. And so she shows Shalon this page of notes that she's taken, or a bunch of different notes. And Shalon starts going through them. Suddenly dangerous, like a calm day that became a tempest. Beings of ash and fire. Flame and char, skin so terrible, eyes like pits of blackness, music when they kill. Many of these are things that we saw in epigraphs earlier in part 3, I want to say. Maybe part 2.
The tipping point was music when they kill. I just went, hang on a fucking second.
Yep.
And I like her conclusion that the legends lie. They say that we chased the Voidbringers off of Roshar or destroyed them, but that's not how humans work. We don't throw away something we can use.
It's like, man, such a simple, like, accurate statement just became so fucking bleak.
Yeah, like it's kind of chilling in this context.
Yeah.
We didn't destroy the Voidbringers, we enslaved them. And so she's decided that based on all this stuff, the Parshmen are the Voidbringers. And that chapter ends on that very dramatic revelation. And then we move away from them for one chapter to then come back to them in a minute. So we go to Kaladin, who's standing out there in Dalinar's camp. It's a cool night, and he's just kind of looking out at everything, thinking about what happened tonight. And he's talking to Syl, like, can I really trust this guy? And Syl says that he's a good man, but also apparently she really didn't like his shard blade. She says
that's interesting to me. She's just completely opposed to it, and it makes me think, okay, we assume that maybe the Spren have something to do with the shard, whether it was Honor or someone else who is in charge of this planet. Does that mean the shard blade comes from a different shard? Is this using Odium's tools? Is that why the Parshendi also have them, and like did the Alethi and everyone else take them from the Parshendi? Is that how this works?
The blades are very good at killing, so I can kind of see that, right?
Yeah.
If we were back on like Scadrial and you had like ruin versus preservation thing, I'd be like, these blades are very ruinous. Like, they're good at destroying.
Yeah.
She says that the blade feels wrong to her. She hates it, and she's glad that Dalinar got rid of it. So this is a very extreme reaction, actually, from Syl. I don't know that we've ever heard her be like, I hate it. And Kaladin is thinking about everything that happened and the way that he attacked that Parshendi Shardbearer. And really, it was kind of like the Parshendi were being honorable in the fight, and he's the one who kind of acted what he says the most cowardly position possible is how he attacked because, you know, the way he's trained, survival is the only rule of the battlefield. You do whatever it takes to stay alive. And they have a discussion about, can you kill people to protect? Is that not a contradiction? And she says that the killing, it hurt her, but also she's the one who prompted him to go and do it. So
Yeah, it's all confusing.
yeah, it's like either way, Kaladin could have left them to die, and that would have been terrible, or he could have gone and killed a bunch of Parshendi, and that was also terrible. So it's like there's no good answer here. And before they come to any sort of conclusion, Dalinar shows up. And I like the point where before Dalinar starts talking, where Kaladin is thinking like other people have looked that noble, but would a guy really trade a shard blade just to keep up appearances? And at that point, like, where's the line between appearance and reality? If you're that dedicated to keeping up the appearance of being honorable, doesn't that just mean you're honorable? And we start with Dalinar even apologized. Like, I'm sorry for making you meet me so late. It's been a long day. Been a long day for all of us. And we find out that like Dalinar sent his best surgeons to treat the wounded bridgemen even before the wounded Light Eyes officers. Like he's really taking care of these guys. He's given them nice barracks, all sorts of good stuff. Compared to Sadeas, what was going on in Sadeas' camp, like anything would have been a step up, really. And apparently he's offered the bridgemen a purse and freedom. Like, if you want to go, I'll give you some money, I'll give you your freedom, you go. And Kaladin says a fair number of men will probably take that, but most probably won't. And for Bridge 4, they'll probably just do whatever I do. Dalinar brings up that Kaladin was ordering around the officers, even the Light Eyes. Adolin, in fact, is still a little bit bitter about the way your conversation with him went.
Fucking Adolin.
Yeah.
Just like
dude,
this guy
come
saved
on.
my life, but he also talked to me really mean.
This dark
I mean,
guy's
I get
ordered
it.
me
It's
around.
like it's unheard of in their culture for that to happen. So it was more of just like he's probably shocked that it happened in general, even in a battle
Yeah, yeah.
situation. He's just like, what happened? Who does that guy think he is?
And Dalinar says that he's got an offer for Kaladin. The king and I are about to do something very, very dangerous that will upset all the war camps. And Kaladin says, congratulations. What he wants, Dalinar is offering him the position of like his personal bodyguard, basically. He wants Kaladin and his men to protect him and his family. And he's like, wait, you want all the bridgemen to be bodyguards? The elite ones as bodyguards. Those in your crew that you've trained, I want the rest to be soldiers in my army. You trained these men to fight without Sadeas knowing at all while you were running bridges. I'm curious to see what you could do with some real resources. Also, Dalinar lost almost 6,000 men today. He's going to need replacement soldiers.
Yeah.
And Kaladin says, okay, I'll augment Bridge 4 to become an honor guard and train the rest as a spearman company. Those in the honor guard get paid like it. And Dalinar's like, yeah, of course. And basically, Kaladin is going to be placed in charge of a full battalion, 1,000 former bridgemen, which makes him gives him as much authority as a Light Eyes of Fourth Dawn, Dalinar says. So that's very important, is what I'm getting from that. And Dalinar says, I can't actually make you like a battalion lord. That would cause this whole mess of problems. The highest that I dare appoint a Dark Eyes is captain. So I will call you captain. But you'll be in charge of 1,000 people. And Kaladin points out that he needs to be outside the regular chain of command. If any Light Eyes can order him around, how's he going to protect Dalinar against the other high princes? And Dalinar's like, okay, fine. So you're outside the normal chain of command. No other Light Eyes boss you around. You don't boss Light Eyes of lesser rank than you around. You're a separate thing.
I feel like Dalinar can only make this promise because of what he set up with Elhokar. Like, if he was just another high prince, he would not be able to do what he's promising Kaladin.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, yeah. How could he undermine the authority of another high prince by saying, yeah, that Dark Eyes guy that works for me, you can't boss him around?
Well, that's the thing. Like, if somebody's in Dalinar's army, I don't know that Sadeas could give him orders, because Sadeas has his own army that he's in command of. I don't know that he could command somebody else's army.
No, but there's the general feeling that, in general, dark-eyed people can get ordered around by light-eyed people.
Okay.
There is the general feelings. You wouldn't be able to give him orders, but if you'd say, "Oi, take this message to your lord for me,"
That's
the
fair.
dark-eyed person would have to
Either
go and
that,
do that.
or,
Whereas Kaladin could say, "Shove it up your ass."
Right. Either that, or they could say, move out of my way. I'm going to go talk to Dalinar, and he'd be like, no, you're not.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Especially if he's the bodyguard, because that's exactly his job.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Kaladin also arranges that his battalion for at least a year, doesn't go into like the battles on the plains. I know that you have battalions basically doing police work, keeping peace in the market, that sort of thing. That's where my men go for at least a year. And Donner's like, okay, yeah.
Seems fair.
Yeah.
Have a bit of a break, recuperate, train.
Yeah, the training is the real thing, right? Because you got to give them a chance so they don't end up like Tien, getting sent out there completely untrained and slaughtered. And Dalinar gives him the gift of the cloak that he wore in battle today. Accept it with my gratitude, Kaladin Storm Blessed. He's like, wait, how do you know that name? Oh, you're men. They think very highly of you, and that makes me think highly of you.
Go back a bit. When he gives him the cloak, he's like, each man who wears my colors is of my family in a way. And I'm thinking to myself, is Dalinar about to say, man, I always wished I had a son? And Adolin Renren's like, fucking what?
You're the son I never had, Kaladin.
He's Adolin and Renren are just like, wait, what?
You think Adolin was already annoyed. Wait till that conversation occurs.
Yeah. It's like, well, I didn't just forget my wife. There's like odd days where I also forget my son.
Yes, exactly. Right, I have more than one. Shoot, I gotta keep track.
Right, yeah. Man, I must have really liked that woman I was married to.
And so Kaladin goes back to see his guys, and it says they've got nice barracks. Each of the bridge crews had gotten like their own building. He's like, I've got command of over 1,000 men now. I've never commanded more than 25 before. This is going to be different. But nobody's in their new barracks. They're all, Bridge 4 is all out there doing their nightly thing of stew and sitting around the fire and talking. Because they're like, we couldn't go to sleep until we did our thing that we do.
Yeah, stewing the stew as we do.
Like somebody, Scar says, like, stew's worth staying up for, even if he does put rocks in it. And Rock's like, no, I don't. How dare you?
I must have gotten Scar mixed up with someone else because I thought he was dead.
No, Scar was dead.
I mean,
you're probably thinking of
but...
old earless Jax.
No. I remember earless Jax. How could you forget earless Jax?
And Narm. Narm sounds a little bit like Scar. Anyway, Teft and the group have been talking about what they saw Kaladin do out there. Which, I mean, he was glowing and drawing arrows to him. Everyone saw this shit. You can't really hide it at this point. At least not from these other Bridge 4 guys. And he's worried about how they're going to react. Like, are they going to be scared? Are they going to, like, shun me? And Drahe's like, it was awesome. And Moash is like, can you teach me how to do that? And Lopen's like, oh, yeah, me too. And Kaladin's like, I don't know if you can be taught. Aren't you guys upset about this? And they're like, what? We're bridgemen. If something helps you stay alive, it's good. Everything else is like comes second to that.
Mm.
And so he's like, I don't know if this can be taught. And he looks over at Syl, and Syl, it says, has a curious expression, which is not helpful. And he's like, I don't even know what it is, but I guess that doesn't mean we can't try.
The first thing we need to do is get you all spren buddies.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe.
Do you have your spren buddies?
I do love Lopen's line of like, the only thing I'd be alarmed about is how irresistible the women would find it. They'd say, Lopen, you only have one arm, but I see that you can glow. I think you should kiss me now. Lopen.
What strange reasoning.
Right?
It's not like, I see you only have one arm and you're glowing. I'm freaked out by this. It's like, you should kiss me because you can glow.
Yeah. And in the meantime, like, we have, they want to know what Kaladin can do, and he shows them a little bit of what he can do. But Sigzil jumps out. He's like, okay, wait. So exactly how much stronger does this make you? How much weight can the rocks hold after you stick them together? How much faster can you go? Like twice as fast? A quarter faster? And Colin's like...
Sigzil's all in on just like the technical details.
Yes, which I love because I love the sciencey part of the magic in here where you're... So I'm all with Sigzil where it's like, we need to evaluate this and figure out exactly like the limits of this power. Would that not be useful?
I like how Kaladin's just like, oh.
And Rock's like, oh yeah, it's a good idea. We can do tests. And he's like, I'll throw you off a cliff and we'll see what happens. It'd be a small cliff. I like you too much for a large cliff. And yeah, they all settle down and laughing and eating their stew and everyone's happy. And Kaladin thinks for a minute about Malop and Earless Jax and Narm, the three men who died in that last battle and how he failed them. But he's like, you know what? I protected not just Bridge 4, but almost 1,000 bridgemen who are never going to have to run bridges against Parshendi arrows again. So maybe we're good for today.
Yeah, on the balance sheet, you're doing all right there, Kaladin. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, talk about being too hard on yourself. Where he's like, I saved 1,000 people, but I lost 3. Stupid.
I could have
me.
gotten one more. This ring, I could have gotten one more. It's a depressing movie.
So we go. We're back to Shallan and Yasna for the chapter Ghost Blood, where Shallan finishes reading and she's like, "No, you're right. The Voidbringer's the Parchment. That's the only conclusion." And Yasna's just sitting here like looking pleased with herself. Yes, I am quite smart. Thank you.
Shut up, baby. I knew it.
And so Yasna talks about how these things say that like Parchment suddenly turned and attacked or whatever. And that seems to be what happened with the Parshendi. Suddenly out of nowhere, they assassinated her father in the middle, like right after their treaty signing. So is this the same thing? Is what happened in the past happening again? Just as it did in the days of the heraldic epochs, whatever you say that word. And she also talks about how like the Parchment are integrated into every level of our society. They do all this work for us. They watch our children, like all of these things that Parchment take care of. What would happen if all of a sudden they turned on us? And it's not just one group. Their minds, like they can sing these songs in unison even when far apart. She says their minds are connected like span reeds somehow.
Hive mind, baby.
I mean, that's a dramatic thing that I don't think that we have ever. I mean, we heard things about how they can sing the same, or they seem to sing the same song, even like when they're out of earshot of each other. But the thought that all their minds are connected, that's kind of new.
Mm-hmm. So, but they also appear to have some kind of individuality. So I guess it can't be completely hive mind.
I mean, that'd be in the same way that the Inquisitors were all like, they're all of the same purpose. They have a bit of individuality, but ultimately they were all still bent to Ruin's will. Yeah, maybe it's a shard doing this.
Could be. Basically, if they all turn at the same time, Alethi civilization could collapse, like with the removal of this entire class of people. Not just removal, like if they become aggressive and start attacking, they're everywhere. She also notes that the Tales have the Parchment fighting alongside like beasts of stone. Maybe that was like a great shell or something. I don't know. Although in the flashbacks we've seen or the visions we've seen like actual stone monsters. They do not seem to have been crabs, but maybe.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're right about this Parshendi thing, or if they are like maybe certain portions of the Parchment / Parshendi are being bent to a certain shard, and the other ones are being bent to a different shard. Because I feel like, I don't know, they keep talking about how the Parshendi have a lot of honor, right? And so like if we're surmising that honor is one of the shards, and my early predicament, I'm guessing that is probably the dead one, because they named another shard already, and we know Odium's also on the planet, and we know one of the shards is dead because he said he's dead in the vision. Then I feel like if it is Parshendi, they have to be Parshendi that are being influenced by a different shard than honor, but I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a reasonable guess that there could be a shard, we've seen like you guys talked about, we've seen that before. But yeah, I guess that makes the question, who exactly could it be, and how, and are there more than one like fighting over? There's all sorts of it opens up more questions than it answers, I think, is the main thing. And as Joe said, they might not even be right, so that could be a whole other set of questions. And then Yasna tells Shallan, we're gonna leave. Are you sure you want to do this? And Shallan's like, wait, you just let me go after what you told me? And she's like, yeah, I won't have you serving me while thinking of ways to escape. And Shallan thinks about something that we haven't talked about in a while. It's like, oh, my brothers, I can't just leave them, but this is bigger and more important than me or them or any of us. So yeah, I guess screw my brothers. Let's do this.
Yeah, not a total loss.
You guys have never been big fans of her brothers anyway. And Yasna's like, okay, we'll pack up. We're leaving tomorrow on that ship I chartered for you, and we're going to the Shattered Plains. We have to find all this information before somebody else does and uses it against us.
This was the moment we were like, yeah, they're gonna go to the Shattered Plains. Like, she said it now. Like, it's official. That's where they're trying to get to. So this is where our heroes collide.
I can't wait to see Yasna kick the shit out of her brother for being a dumbass.
Yeah, or even better, like Shallan being like, I met that Kaladin guy. He's annoying.
Would they get along, Kaladin and Shallan?
I mean, I don't know. She seems pretty hung up over Capsule for some reason.
Well, Kaladin's not a big fan of Light Eyes. Maybe he'll start getting over that now that he's working with Dalinar.
Yeah. Yasna's going to walk up to Dalinar and go, Uncle Dalinar, this is my new ward, Shallan. And Dalinar goes, oh, hi, this is my new ward, Kaladin. And they just look at each other just like, I don't like you.
See, the interaction I'm looking forward to the most is when Yasna realizes that her uncle's trying to date her mom.
Yeah.
I feel like Yaz's reaction would be more like, interesting choice, Uncle. Well, I hope that goes well for you. I don't think it's going to.
We heard an interaction about her mom before where Yasna said over Spaniard, like, be careful of her, Uncle, she bites.
Yes. She'll like, Dalinar will tell her, she's just going to look at them and just go, your funeral.
But Shallan is like, wait, there's others looking for this information? And she's like, yeah, who do you think tried so hard to have me assassinated? For all I know, there might be several secret groups searching for this stuff, but I only know one for certain. They called themselves the Ghost Bloods. And your friend Capsol was one. We found their symbol tattooed on the inside of his arm.
Okay.
Bum.
So we saw all the fucking hoops that Marasai had to jump through to even be considered for membership to this group. Like, Marasai is extremely competent and really good at what she does, and they grilled the fuck out of her before they offered her a place. How the fuck did that incompetent jam lover get a spot in the group?
You just nailed it on the head. He's a jam addict.
Yeah.
They're like, we got him. He's our tool now.
We can pay him in jam.
Yeah, we can pay him in jam. That's nothing. You know how much jam we have on Scadrial? So much. We don't even know how to do with it all.
It's just ash jam. No one likes it.
I mean, he got real close to assassinating Yasna with most people not being even a little suspicious of him. I think that he wasn't too bad.
Oh, see, that's it though. Like, Yasna, she was soulcasting the bread as we saw. It's like, he was in place, but he was never actually, like, Yasna was never in any danger from him.
Yeah, but I don't think that he could have known that. Like, there's no way that he could know that she can soulcast without a soulcaster, since apparently no one can do that.
Yeah.
I guess. And so you say he got close, and it's like he didn't actually.
But yeah, you gotta wonder, like, he talked about, like, during his time in the Ardentia, he'd seen Ardents using soulcasters, and that it wasn't really that hard. So was he actually an Ardent that they recruited as an assassin, or had he been disguised as one for a long time? Or, like, how long has he been a Ghostblood? This is all sorts of questions about Capsol that I don't know at this point. He's dead. We may never get answers, but
he's just a joke to us. It's fine.
Yeah.
But she shows Shallan that symbol, the 3 diamonds that we've seen before, the Ghostblood symbol. And Shallan's like, holy crap, that's that same symbol that, like, Luesh, my father's steward, wore, the one who could use a soulcaster. And she's like, yes, I think my father might have been a member of this group. And that's where that chapter ends. So the Ghost Bloods are involved on all sorts of levels in what's going on behind the scenes here. But you guys were kind of already thinking that.
Well, again, like, we peeked behind that curtain thanks to Lost Metals, so.
But I will say there's more than one secret society at work on Roshar. So don't necessarily put all your eggs in one basket.
Well, we know that, like, what's-his-face has to be a part of some kind of crazy society. The king.
Elokar?
No, the other king.
Gavilar?
No, the other king.
Taravangian?
The Archived guy?
Taravangian.
Oh, Taravangian. Okay, yeah. He's got some shit going on for sure.
Yeah, he's either the head of some secret society or he's a part of one. Like, that guy's crazy.
So, chapter 75, the last numbered chapter of the book, is called In the Top Room, which I don't know if you guys recall, but this seems to be a reference to the story of the Wander Sail that we saw, because they found the king's body in the top room of that tower, and there's kind of a similar thing going on here with this god.
Yeah, because the whole thing was like they finally get into the top room and learn that the person everyone was taking orders from was actually dead the whole time.
Yep. So Dalinar is having a vision. The storm has started blowing, and he is in Kholinar, and not like Kholinar of the past, like we saw in the other vision, but like he recognizes things there. He's like, there's my palace over there. And the voice starts talking. You must unite them. And he's like, why'd you lie to me? I did what you said and I was betrayed. And the voice is like, unite them. The Everstorm comes, the true desolation, the night of sorrows. And Dollar's like, look, I don't trust you anymore. If you want me to listen, you're going to have to. And then he starts looking around. This is where he realizes where he is. He's in Kolinar. It's been destroyed. And the voice says, I can't fight any longer. I can't fight him any longer. And he sees a guy now. Dark skin, pure white hair, tall and thick of chest, but not massive. Wearing some strange clothing that he's not really familiar with. And Dalinar realizes this is the first vision that he saw. Way back, the first time he had a vision, this was it. And he doesn't remember it all that well because he wasn't used to it at that point. He's like, what the hell's going on? And he's just like, why won't you answer any of my questions? At least tell me this. What time are we seeing? Is it the past, the future, something else? And after a minute, the guy goes, you're probably wondering if this is a vision of the future. And Dalinar's like, well, I just asked that. Wait. And now that he's seeing a vision again, he realizes this guy's saying all of the exact same stuff he said last time. I'm not just in the same place seeing the same stuff. Everything that he does is the same. And he realizes this guy can't hear me. He could never hear me. What we do get is the guy saying, I can't see the future completely. Cultivation, she's better at it than I. It's as if the future is a shattering window, and the further you look, the more pieces the window breaks into.
Was cultivation a shard? Was that one of the names we got in Secret History?
I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I assumed it was a shard by the fact that he said a word that doesn't sound like a person, but he's referring to a person that is capitalized. I was like,
Yeah,
that's got to
makes
be a
sense.
shard. I feel like we don't see those kinds of names unless it's a shard.
Yeah.
And Dalinar's like, holy crap, he's not ignoring me. He can't see me. He's not speaking in riddles. I just took it that way because I assumed what he was saying was answers to the questions I was asking.
I did it dumb, guys. I'm sorry.
And I don't
Frankly, I'm
remember,
astonished I got this far.
did anyone predict that at any point, that it's like, maybe this guy's not really answering his questions?
No, never
Nope.
predicted that.
Okay.
We just assumed that it was, just more of the cryptic stuff.
All right. He says, this is what could happen. It's what I fear will happen. It's what he wants. The true desolation. I'm sorry to do this to you. I hope by now what you've seen has given you a foundation to understand. But I can't know for certain. I don't know who you are or how you even found your way here. And everything is blown away by this like wave that he's been watching come in the whole time. And he thinks that the original vision ended there, but this one keeps going. And the figure says, I can't leave much. Just these few images given to you, whoever you are. I don't even know if anyone will ever see this. I'm gone, you see. And then he says that it's not just about you. And he points up. A light winks out in the sky. And then another and another. It's about all of them. I should have realized he'd come for me. So he's predicting not just the destruction of Roshar, but like presumably stars in the sky are like dimming and going dark.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good.
No, this is a Cosmere level event. Sounds like this guy's predicting. He's doing his own predicaments this episode.
Yeah.
The guy's like, I'm hoping that this will give you hope. This will give you a chance. Do you wish to fight him? And Dalinar's like, yeah. Someone must lead them. And Dalinar's like, I'll do it. Someone must protect them. And Dalinar's like, yes, I will do that. The Knights Radiant must stand again. And Dalinar's like, okay, I don't know how to do that, but I'll give it a shot.
That's going to be a hard sell.
I'm down for anything, I guess. Maybe.
He said, oh, I've come this far.
You cannot squabble as in times past. He's realized that you, given time, will become your own enemies, that he doesn't need to fight you. If he can make you forget, you'll turn against each other. Your legends say that you won, but the truth is we lost, and we are losing. You might be able to get him to choose a champion. He's bound by some rules, all of us are. A champion could work for you, but without the Dawn Shards, well, I've done what I can. It's a terrible thing to leave you alone. And Dalinar just is repeated, like, who are you? But this time he's like, he thinks he knows. And the guy says, I was God, the one you call the Almighty, creator of mankind, and now I'm dead. Odium has killed me. I am sorry.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, it's a bummer, man.
It's a bummer, man.
Odium's getting his Galactus on. He's coming here to eat the place.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know that he needs it for sustenance. I think he just gets off on it. It's like his shard It's a
That's even
shard.
worse.
It's a shard boner, you know. He gets a real shard on for destroying planets.
Oh my god.
So we know that Odium, or we think that we know that Odium took out who are the other ones? Devotion and Dominion.
Devotion and Dominion, yeah.
Devotion, Dominion, Desolation.
And so
that's
now
this book.
whoever this is, the Almighty, also was killed by Odium. So that's at least 3 of the 16 shards destroyed by Odium.
I did have a moment, like, when reading this. He's like, I am God, and Odium has killed me. I had a moment, it's like, holy shit, is this Adonalcium? But no, he's talking about shards that he knows. Adonalcium probably doesn't have that.
No, Adonalcium, the space dragon, that's not him.
And that's the end of our chapters that have numbers. We come to the epilogue, which that's our Wit perspective that we were given to believe was coming.
Mm-hmm.
And Wit is in Kolinar. There's 3 guards at the city gate, and he's just kind of hanging out on some crates and chatting at them.
I'm just like, who is this guy?
And these
What's
guys
he
are like,
doing?
yeah, these guys are like, this guy's crazy, but he's a light eyes. He's got like light blue eyes. So basically, we just have to sit here and take it.
It's like, don't piss him off.
And Wit's like, let us have a conversation to pass the time. Tell me, what is it that men value in others? And he's sitting there playing music. And so one of the guys is like, I don't know, music? And so I don't know where you guys thought this was going, because he goes on for a while about, like, what is the talent that is men consider of the most worth, which is the title of the epilogue, of most worth.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I did not know where it was going at all. I was just like, I have no idea what the hell's happening, but it's happening in an entertaining way, so I'm just going to let it play.
Yeah, I'm just along for the ride, and I'm enjoying it. So yeah.
Yep.
And so he says that, he asked this of some wise men once, and they said these various things: artistic ability, great intellect, the talent to invent. But think about this: if an artist creates this amazing work with a new innovative technique, she will be lauded as a master. But if another one working independently with the same exact level of skill does the same thing the next month, would she find similar acclaim? No, she'd be called derivative. And then he goes on to give similar examples in mathematics and in inventing new things. Like, if you do something amazing first, then you're the best. If you do the exact same thing but second, then nobody gives a crap. And so he says, no, right? He's not. So he determines that what men value most is not any of those things. It is novelty, the ability to do the thing first and at the right time, to do an amazing thing and have it be new. That's the real skill, which that's the tough one to have. And then somebody pounds on the gates, and he goes, the storm has come. And the men are all like, oh, geez, what? Something's pounding on the gates. And then a shard blade slips through and cuts the bar that's holding the gates shut. And they come open, and the guards are freaking out. And a guy steps through, dark-skinned, his hair long and matted, his clothing nothing more than a ragged sack-like length of cloth wrapped around his waist. His beard has bits of wood and leaves stuck in it. He has an enormous shard blade dragging in the stone that looks long and narrow and straight like an enormous spike.
Yeah, this guy's obviously Inquisitor.
There's a cool image of this moment. Let me see if I can. That comes from. There it is. I think it comes from. Maybe the Call. Yeah, it's Call to Adventure. It's a board game. There's a board game called Call to Adventure, and then they made a Stormlight Archive version of it that uses Stormlight stuff. And so this is a picture of this moment from that, and I'll share it with you guys, because really the art in that game is terrific. Anyone out there who has not seen that, you should check it out. Call to Adventure I bought before they even talked about Stormlight, because it was a Kickstarter, and it had a Name of the Wind like expansion with it as part of the Kickstarter, and I was like, oh well, I'm in. And it was a fun game, and then they came out with the Stormlight version. I was like, okay, I'm double in. I'll get that too. But there you go. That's the image.
Dang.
Dude, that guy's ripped.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
That is, man, Arnie's really let himself go.
Yeah. It's like a Samson level ripped.
Definitely larger than I expected.
Right? Yes. He is a big, big dude in that picture. And I like his muscles glistened wet as if he just swum a great distance. Okay, if you say so, Wit. And Wit hops up. He says, "Welcome, lost one." And the guard's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Who am I? I am Talenel Elin, stone sinew, herald of the Almighty. The desolation has come. Oh God, it has come, and I have failed." And then he slumps forward, and he seems to pass out, but his shard blade doesn't disappear like it usually does when somebody passes out. Usually the shard blade just stays if you're dead. And so somebody is poking at him with the butt of the spear. Like, is he alive? He doesn't move, so.
And
Wit's
got
What a good
himself
sign.
a sword, you say?
We end with Wit being like, what is it we value? Innovation, originality, novelty, but most importantly, timeliness. I fear you may be too late, my confused, unfortunate friend. That's all right then. And then you get end of book 1 of the Stormlight Archive.
The end.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then we move to the end note, which is first off a poem. Above silence, the illuminating storms, dying storms illuminate the silence above. Which I don't know if anyone picked up on this, but this kind of 5-piece ketek is, as it's called, it's the titles of all of the parts in this book. Part 1 was Above Silence, Part 2 is the Illuminating Storms, and so on and so forth. Because the Vorin people love symmetry so much, this is like the highest form of poetry for them. A poem that reads the same forward and backwards, but you can also divide it into smaller sections that each express a complete thought.
Well, aren't the Vorin just annoying?
And the fact that this one was uttered by an illiterate dying Herdazian in a language he barely spoke is of particular note. We leave it to His Majesty's mind on a strong day to puzzle out the meaning of why the storms might be important and what this poem may mean. Signed, Joshor, head of His Majesty's Silent Gatherers, Tanatanev, 1173. So I guess the people gathering these dying words that we've been seeing are called the Silent Gatherers, which makes sense. Okay. And yeah, there's some information of significance in here, but it's kind of obscure. And we will move forward to the Ars Arcanum. We get the 10 essences and their historical associations. So the 10 numbers are associated with gemstones, which are associated with essences, and so on and so forth, and you get a chart about it. The main thing that I want to bring out here is that the essences are the stuff that you can – that's how you subdivide what you can make with soul casting, which is what Yasna was talking about. She says that blood is one of the essences, and you can see that's like number 6 on the list. Blood or all non-oil liquid. So that would include water, I suppose. So that essence covers that segment. And we heard earlier that from Shalon, I don't know if you guys remember, but Shalon mentions that like soulcasters are usually like tuned to making particular things. And she thought that Yasna's soulcaster was made like crystal or rock and gas and fire. So Zephyr, Spark, and Talus were the essences that she said that she thought that soulcaster was tuned to. And so you see Zephyr is translucent gas or air, whereas Vapor is opaque gas. Also, maybe it was actually Vapor because Yasna kept making smoke. Fire is one of the essences. Quartz is one of the essences. Wood. Non-oil liquids are one, and then oil liquids are the other one. And then the last one is just meat and flesh, which that sounds nice. But so when you see somebody soul casting, this is kind of how it's divided up into like the different things that can be made, which is the only thing that I really wanted to pull out of here. It's kind of interesting.
I like that there's a structure to it, and it's not just you can turn anything into anything. Like it's with all the like the Mistborn powers, it's very structured. Like I like that this is also very structured.
Yes, agreed. I like when there's structure that we can figure out and learn. Ancient scholars place the 10 orders of Knights Radiant on this list alongside the heralds themselves. I'm not certain yet how the 10 levels of Void Binding or its cousin, the Old Magic, fit into this paradigm, if indeed they can. My research suggests that indeed there should be another series of abilities that's even more esoteric than the Void Bindings. Perhaps the Old Magic fits into those. So none of this really makes much sense at this point, but it's...
We even heard of void binding before now?
No, that is not a term that we've ever heard.
Okay.
Chris is bringing it in here because you guys remember Chris writes all of these. So
Yes, yeah.
I mean, I assume void binding has got to be lashing just by title, but I mean, I'm just making a guess.
Yeah.
But maybe the old magic or esoteric powers, whatever she's talking about, because we now have heard the name cultivation, right? And we know that the Shin super into cultivation, seems like. So they
that's
may
a good
be
point.
they may be following like the cultivation shard, whether that's known to them or not, that may be kind of where their culture lies within the creation, like the shards of the world. And so perhaps the old magic is more of like a cultivation type thing. I don't know.
Okay, that's would make sense. Yeah, I mean, because we've just heard about cultivation and that she may be involved here in some way. Although we also heard the name in Secret History, so cultivation could just be the one that is friends with lots of these. So she pops in. Who knows?
Well, I mean, potentially, but it really seemed like in Secret History they were naming shards that were relevant to this, like to what had come.
Mm-hmm.
So, by that point, when Secret History was published, Stormlight had started to come out, so that probably wasn't chosen at random.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you've got a good point there.
Without asking for the exact details, do you yourself know the names of every shard? Do you know all 16?
I think I'll just say no.
Okay, so they haven't all been revealed yet.
They have not.
Okay.
There's indications that we may soon, maybe as soon as the 5th Stormlight book, get the last one or ones that we don't know yet. But no, they have not all yet been revealed.
Okay, cool.
Okay, and then we move into the creation of fabrials, which we've seen a little bit of here and there in this book. Fabrials appear to be the work of dedicated scientists as opposed to the more mystical surge bindings once performed by the Knights Radiant. So we had void binding in the last section. Now we have surge bindings, which are were performed by the Knights Radiant, she says. There are altering fabrials, such as augmenters, which increase a thing, or diminishers, which diminish a thing, which we saw that with the pain diminisher. There's pairing fabrials, so conjoined fabrials like the span reed. It says the process requires splitting the original ruby, then you put the two halves into the span reeds, and then like they move together. She says you infuse a ruby using a methodology that has not yet been revealed to me, though I have my suspicions. So you got to do something weird to it first that she doesn't know exactly, but then you split it in half and you can do this. Then there's reversers, which are like that, but they do the opposite. Raise one and the other one goes down, vice versa. Warning fabrials, there's only one of those so far, the alerter, and we saw that before, the one that lets you know when people are coming. And the amount of stormlight that you can infuse in the gem affects the range that it can detect people. So bigger gemstones hold more stormlight, can detect stuff further. Then we move away from fabrials into windrunning and lashings. The windrunners were an order of the Knights Radiant, and they made use of two primary types of surge binding. The effects colloquially known as the 3 lashings.
Okay, so it's surge. So it's a form of surge binding, not void binding.
And so we learned about the lashings. Like one of the first things we learned in this book were about the lashings. So I won't jump into that very much. But there's one fun note that advanced use of this the basic lashing, the gravitational change lashing, allows a windrunner to make himself or herself lighter by binding part of his or her mass upward. Mathematically, binding a quarter of one's mass upward halves a person's effective weight, and binding half of your mass upward would create weightlessness.
Checks out.
Yeah. Just some interesting notes as we continue forward about fabrials and about lashings. Surge binding, the term has come in. Void binding, old magic. There's all sorts of stuff that we're just, at this point, touching on the edges of, or like void binding that we haven't actually seen or heard of at all before this. But I think that it's useful to kind of get some ideas from there about these kind of things. So that is the end of this book. We have all the way through the end of it. And as I mentioned before, for next time, we're doing Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell. So no, like, giving you guys chapter titles to try to predict for next time or anything. But predicaments we will do nonetheless. Where are we going from here? What's going to happen? What do you guys expect as we continue through Stormlight? And if you want, what the heck do you think Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell is about?
I got nothing as far as Shadows of Silence go, but Again, I've been waiting for this for a while because I think that title is really metal. So
It is like the most metal title, right?
yeah, but as far as where Stormlight's going to go in book 2 and beyond, I feel like you just cut and paste my predictions from last week and paste them in again. like I still think like I said, we know Seth is going to converge on the Shattered Plains coming after Dalinar. I don't know, maybe to throw an extra wrinkle into it, maybe Seth gets confronted by Yasna and she does something crazy to bring him down. Because like, if she's got, I think she sort of mentioned that her powers are similar to a Radiant as well. So maybe we could see like Radiant battle in some regard, because of all the characters we've seen who have Radiant powers, which isn't many already, but Seth and Yasna are the two who have the most control over them and know what they're doing. So seeing them go into a fight against each other using those could be pretty fucking cool. You know, Seth does his thing, like he lashes a stone to come and just fly at Yasna's face, and she just soul casts into smoke and it just whiffs past her face, and she doesn't even break eye contact with him. Like that would be fucking great.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a cool picture. It's very like comic book superhero battle type thing. I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, beyond that, I'm just going to stick to the predictions I made last time. I don't really have much else that's new, really.
Okay. Fair enough. And you're right. We've seen two people who can use these powers pretty badassedly. Like Yasna's blasting beams at people to turn them into crystal or smoke in a dark alley, and Seth is assassinating many people. And then we've got like a Kaladin and a Shallan who seem like they're just discovering what they can do. So not as interesting to see that fight between like a Kaladin and a Shallan as it is between a Seth and the Yasna.
Yeah.
I don't have a huge amount of new stuff either. I think something that I would like to see is maybe Seth train Kaladin, but there's a lot they'd have to overcome to actually get there. Kaladin's learning a lot, obviously, and probably learns a bit more from Syl, but there's a lot that he's not going to know unless he can be told by someone or taught by someone who knows more. So that would be interesting. I don't think we're going to get probably closure on the Yarkaved end of the story. Maybe in the next book, like maybe that's a book 3 thing. I think if they're all going to converge on the Shattered Plains now, I think the bulk of our story is probably going to stay there. And probably quite a heavy Pashendi focus. Yasna and Dalinar, I would really look forward to seeing those two in the same space, because they're both obviously quite interested. So that would be cool. But yeah, no real predictions. I guess just more what I'm looking forward to seeing. I hope we see more of Wit come through. I still am going to stand by my prediction that he's actually Noadon, but we need to see more of him for that to actually pan out. So
yeah,
we'll see how that goes. Yeah, that's probably all I've got today. No idea what the short story is about.
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting if we get everybody in the same space. Although, in one way, it would kind of be a shame if all our main characters are in the same space and we're not seeing any looks at the rest of the world, except for maybe the interludes, like we did a lot this time. But important things are happening on the Shattered Plains.
There are, and maybe it's not that we will never get those glimpses. Maybe we get a glimpse of somewhere completely different. Maybe we get some extra characters. Maybe we start getting the brothers' perspective in Yarkaved without actually having Shallan there or something. Yeah, maybe we start having some other perspectives, because we didn't really lose any characters. Like we lost some characters, but not like our main perspective characters.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's some extras introduced. It'd be good to see more Seth, I think, rather than just interlude Seth and a chapter at the end.
That's fair.
Maybe we could turn him yet.
Get some more Seth. I mean, right now he's on his way to kill Dalinar, so
it's true.
I don't know how much more we could get unless it just jumps straight to, okay, I'm here, let's fight.
They'll turn him. They'll capture him.
Yeah, could be. You got to capture the Rock, though. That's the real thing.
It's true. Yeah.
Not Dwayne the Rock Johnson, but
my
it took me a minute, but I figured it was the one that Taravangian's got. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Kaladin's Rock is just a big dude.
That's true.
Yeah.
He's like, we've got our own Rock.
Rock.
Capture the Rock. Everyone find your own Rock.
This is my Rock. Get out of here.
Seth is training Kaladin as per Jamie's prediction, and Seth is like, first, show me your rock. My rock? And it's like, Seth says, yeah, this is mine, holds up his soul stone, and says, all right, Kaladin, where's your rock? And Kaladin says, oh, I'll be right back. Hello, Assassin in White, how are you doing?
Yeah. Or if he's got any rocks.
This is just
left
as
in
ridiculous
DM.
as our chef pirate.
Would you like some choldong, maybe?
Choldong.
Hey, it is rock time!
Yeah, you ate my shit pie. So funny. Oh boy. Predictions. So yeah, I don't know what the short story is going to be about. Who knows? Not me. That's for sure. I think a lot of the predicaments I made before probably still stand, especially one of the big ones I was saying that we're probably maybe gearing up towards is like a Seth Kaladin confrontation, especially now that Kaladin has officially been named like, hey, you're Dalinar Kholen's bodyguard guy. I feel like that has put him in a perfect position to be the one that defends against Seth. So I think there's going to be a lot of Kaladin learning how to do his thing, do the stuff that he needs to do. And I think obviously his bridge team has agreed wholeheartedly, enthusiastically to help him figure out how his powers work. So, depending on how much time there is between this book and the next book, we may already start this book with a Kaladin who knows a lot more about what he's doing with his powers than before. Because I don't know that these books pick up right exactly where we left off before. I don't know how they work. So we may have a little bit of time in between them to kind of realize, oh, Kaladin's matured and grown up a little bit in his power. He knows kind of what he's doing now. So maybe we'll start the book off there. Maybe we'll start it in progress. I don't know. But we've got that piece. And then Yasna and Shallan, if they come to the Shattered Plains, maybe Shallan is a foil / friend for Kaladin. Who knows? Maybe Yasna gets super interested when she figures out that if she figures out, oh, he has like magic powers, which he hasn't let the Light Eyes know specifically what he can do yet. So who knows when they'll figure that out, or if they'll figure it out, or if he chooses to share it with Dalinar, or how that'll play out. I don't know, because he's been trying to hide it from them. So yeah, I think the title of the book will kind of speaks a little bit to what it's going to be about. Maybe we're going to find out about more about the Knights Radiant and what it means to be a knight and all that good stuff. And one thing that I think might bring the focus away, I know some of us were like, oh, it's going to be more focused on the Shattered Plains. Well, we just got a guy dropping Kholinar, so
Yep, true.
There's very high possibility that some of our main characters might go to Kholinar. If some of the main characters don't go and we get new characters, maybe a lot of that stuff's going to be based around Kholinar, because this guy who's claiming to be a herald's there now. So there's definitely going to be some kind of intrigue around that, I would assume. And so, yeah, there's plenty of stuff that could definitely happen. I've named a few things, but
Yep.
I'm open to really anything because we don't know.
Yep. I like that you pointed out we don't know what, if any, sort of time jump there could be between the books. So that could make a big difference if between where we jump right in right where we left off, or if we come a year later and Yasna and Shallan are already back to the Shattered Plains and Kaladin has trained his men up and stuff that could be very different stories.
Yeah, because Harry Potter book 1 goes from June to the end of July. We skip a whole month. We go straight to Harry's birthday. So we don't know what happened to him over the summer in that month. It sounded like it sucked, but
it always sucks.
Yeah. His summers aren't. He has crappy summers. Except for when he was 14. That summer was all right.
That's true. Yeah, he got to go and hang out.
Yeah, until the end of the Quidditch match, and then it started to suck again.
Yeah, you're not wrong. There's dark marks and such. Yep. But also, I'd like to use point out, man, who knows? Anything could still happen. At this point. It's all open.
We got 4 more books.
Yeah.
That we got to read, and then there's going to be another one. So
there's going to be 10 total books in this series. So
yeah, exactly. We got time. We got time to kill.
No, sorry, only 4 books are out, so that's all we have to go on. This ridiculously circuitous series is 1 quarter complete.
No, before we even finish book 2, the 5th one will be out.
Yeah, I know.
And so and then there's 2 there's a novella that happens between books 2 and 3, and one between
Oh, there
books
you
3
go.
and 4. So you got
okay.
on top of those books, you got 2 novellas, and
Yeah.
there's rumors that there might be another novella between books 4 and 5. But if so, he hasn't written it yet, so
Yeah,
or he
rumor
hadn't come out yet.
rumor
Give me
has it.
5 minutes.
Yeah, he'll be like, oh
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
that's coming out in August, and then the new book's coming out in December.
Yeah.
Have fun.
I had to take 2 days off while I was sick, and in that time I wrote another 3 short stories and a novella.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a really bad stomach flu, and I laid on my side on the couch, but I just wrote on my side, laying there.
Oh,
You're gonna love this book. It's about a guy who has constant stomach problems, but he's
Gives him
superpowers.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he's also the hero.
It turns out like the stomach powers is some sort of spirit that lives in his bowels, and
Right.
and they fight crime.
What it is he lives on Scadrial, and when he burns stuff, it hurts his tummy real bad, but he still does it because he's a hero.
Oh, can you imagine someone having to like on schedule having to burn the metals, but they've also got IBS? Like, what would that do?
Yeah, doesn't sound great.
No, that would suck.
Yeah. He creates harmonium inside his body, and it's messed up. He's got to poop it out and then scoop it out.
Oh,
Jeez. Okay. Speaking of the new book coming out in December, I'm going to use that to transition. This week, the week before we recorded this, obviously it'll be a little bit later by the time you guys hear it. The tickets, the passes went for the convention went on sale. We also got a new name. It was just called like Dragonsteel. It started out as Dragonsteel MiniCon is what it was called. And then it was just Dragonsteel. Now, in order to differentiate the convention from the company that's called Dragonsteel, they have decided to call the convention Dragonsteel Nexus.
Okay.
So the passes went on sale this week, and it was a shit show.
Uh-oh.
There are lots of very angry people out there. Myself, I knew what where they were going to be on sale because they announced that ahead of time, and it was the same place they were on sale last year. They announced what time they were going to be on sale, so I made sure that I signed up for an account on the website. I had my credit card information in. I had the website up 5 minutes early to refresh and make sure I could get in there and get a pass. For some backstory, they've talked about before and since the sale, some people from the company, even in some of the discords that I'm in where there's people who work for the company, they've given some information that basically last year there were lots of people who attended, and it's the convention is held in Salt Lake City at what is called the Salt Palace, which is the biggest convention center in the state of Utah. So there's not a bigger place that they could hold this.
that is a fucking awesome name for a convention hall.
The
Yeah.
Salt Palace, yeah. Salt Lake City. It's a cool idea.
Oh yeah, it's thematic, but it also sounds like something out of a fantasy book.
It does. You're right.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that, but anyway, so they had they don't rent out the whole thing. They had a certain area rented out, and it was a very populous convention last year. And last year it was for the last of the Skyward books. This year being a Stormlight book and book 5, which is the end of the first Stormlight arc. They knew that there's going to be a lot of demand. They anticipated that maybe like twice as many people would want to go as last year. Unfortunately, by the time they were allowed to rent space at the convention center, the only space available was the same amount of space they rented last year.
Wow.
So that was all they could get. And they said in one of the discords I was in, one of the staff members was like, look, if we could choose any time of year, we could have gotten more space. But because we have to have the convention coincide with the book release, it limited our choices.
That's true.
And so,
yeah, I was, thinking about that, especially it being in December. There's probably a lot of people who want to rent that space for like Christmassy type stuff.
Yeah.
yeah, it's entirely possible. I don't know exactly what the other people renting it are, but so they can only get that same amount of space. So their options are sell way more tickets and try to squeeze twice as many people into the same space, which Joe and I went 2 years ago. It was crowded even then.
Yeah, it was pretty crowded.
I wouldn't want to imagine doubling that number of people in that space.
Well, and again, we don't know last year's numbers. It was probably more last year than it was the year we
I
went.
think it was more last year than the year before. So
This is where you start like breaking occupancy laws, and then you got the fire wardens up your
Yeah.
ass.
yeah, that too. And so they had to limit the number of tickets. I think they said that they reorganized some of the space, so they think they can fit more people, but not like that many more people. So I don't know how many tickets they sold last year. This year, I think they had 1,500 VIP tickets and then like 5,000 or 6,000 general admission tickets. And so apparently, because that's how many tickets there were, the people running the website, that the third-party website where they sell the tickets through, were like, oh, well, let's say 7,500 was the total number. They're like 7,500 tickets. There'll probably be about 7,500 people wanting to buy tickets. there was way more people going onto the website than they were prepared to handle. To their credit, the website didn't like crash, but it did do some really weird stuff where it was like you would log in, and then as soon as you go to a different page, it would kick you out and say you need to log in again. And you might get like something in your basket, and when you try to pay for it, it kicks you out and says you have to log in again. And some people who had not already made accounts on the website were having trouble creating accounts, and then when they did create their accounts, they had to verify their identity like 8 times before it would let them, with like emails sent to your email to like, here, verify that you are really the person signing up for this account.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So it was just like so much craziness, so many people so angry about it. Because I already had my account, I had everything in there, and I was refreshing right when it kicked off. I managed to get VIP tickets for myself and my wife in my cart, and it took me another 40 minutes of fighting with the website to pay for those tickets. But the one good thing that I will give them is once you got a ticket in your cart, it was reserved for 2 hours. You had 2 hours to try to pay for it.
Oh, good.
That's something.
So yes, they did a lot of stuff went wrong. I will give this website credit that I think is something that they did right, is having that in there. So not only did people have a horrible time trying to get tickets, the VIP tickets sold out in less than 10 minutes. Even with all of the problems with the website, people barely able to do anything. Within 10 minutes, all the tickets were in somebody's cart, so no more were available to grab.
Yeah.
General admission, that other 5,000 to 6,000 tickets, within an hour, those were all gone as well.
Yeah.
Can't say
So
I'm shocked about that.
a lot of people are angry that they're like, what, didn't they realize that demand would be so high? Why weren't there more tickets? And couldn't they have, gotten more space if they and like people recriminations all over the place against the third party website, against Dragonsteel and Brandon. People are mad because they wanted a VIP ticket and they couldn't get one, or they wanted a ticket at all and they couldn't get one. And there's a lot of very unhappy people.
I mean, I get it, but it's a convention. Like, not everybody gets into Comic-Con. Like, it just doesn't happen.
It's true.
Yeah. And like from everything you've explained, they knew that they were going to have limited numbers and limited space and everything, and they accounted for that as best they could. The only unforeseen part of all this was just like the fact the website went kablooey.
Yep. And a bunch of people are like, how, like, Brandon broke Kickstarter when his big Kickstarter went live. The site crashed. He broke Backer Kit. Yeah, when that launched, yeah. It was like an hour before or more before people could actually buy things because so many people were trying that it crashed. They're like, how did this website not know? How did they not anticipate that so many people would be looking, and how did they not prepare for it? So, but yeah, so it was an adventure, and I am very happy that I managed. I will say partially just through being prepared ahead of time that I managed to snag a couple of tickets at all. But I'm excited to do that in December. And a lot of people had already bought hotel rooms, already paid for flights, and they're like, well, I didn't get a ticket. And then, of course, one of the positives, at least it's always seemed like a positive before, is these tickets are fully refundable and fully transferable. You can give your ticket to whoever you want. That's always been a positive in the past. Now, with so many people wanting passes and not able to get them, there have been scalping and scamming already in the last few days. People getting cheated out of money thinking they were going to get a pass from somebody. So, yeah, lots of problems caused, lots of upset people. But I really think that they did the best that they probably could do.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I know I just said this, but it's a convention. Like, I know we want to all go and experience it, but it just doesn't always happen that way. Like, tickets sell out. It's limited. Everybody can't go.
And part of the thing is, like, even if they could double the amount of space and double the amount of people, if you can't double the amount of things, like panels and things happening that people want to go to, because the convention is centered on, like, Brandon stuff. And Brandon can only be in one place at a time, even when he's there. And he wasn't there most of the time when we went to the convention. He showed up for a couple of specific things.
Yeah, he showed up for a Magic tournament and, like, one other thing, and then the thing at the end. Yeah,
the big book release thing. And so it's like, even if you had twice as much space, if you don't have twice as much stuff that people are there to do, it's still going to be way too crowded because all those people will still be trying to get into the same, like, one or two things.
Yeah.
So it's a line to have to walk when you have this convention centered on something so specific that it's always going to be tough. But so yeah, I thought I would share my experience and to some of the information that I got from people who work there. Like I said, it just came out of Discord channels, so a lot of our listeners may not have had that same information. So I thought that I would share some of that with you guys, the information that I had about what went down and why it went down the way it did. But I did get the tickets, so I will be there in December is the plan for any of our listeners who I'll have our promotional handouts again that we had before and be giving things away to anyone who I'm going to try to get another shirt like the one that I still have the one that we made for the last time, but I'm going to try to use one of the designs that I paid for that I think looks nicer and get a shirt made, like a Volcano Theory shirt. So we will talk more about that as we get, like, that's months away at this point. But as we get closer, I will give out more information on that sort of thing. Now, beyond that, we have a lot of other stuff to discuss today. We have emails and other things. Let's do this Discord thing first so I don't forget it. We have a message from Sasha on the Discord. I'm pretty sure Sasha's emailed us before, but this time she was like, hey, is there time to send an email for the last Way of Kings episode? And I said yes, and then she just, instead of emailing, just put it in Discord. I'm like, all right, that works too. So she says, Dear Sanderlanche crew, congrats on finishing The Way of Kings. Very glad you've been enjoying this one. Can't get much more specific than that since I'm sending this in advance, but I hope you spent this last episode saying how much you loved it and how excited you are to get towards Radiance. If you didn't, it's Shard Blades at Dawn, Goncho, and that's marked out. And of course, it only gets better on reread when you can spot all the crazy foreshadowing and connections, most of which admittedly is for later books, but there's a few that pay off in The Way of Kings. My favorite is the chapter title In the Top Room, being quoted a quote from the Wandersail story. I also noticed that Taravangian has a subtle one in chapter 29 where he offhandedly says he's unlikely to be forgiven, which, yeah, we did talk about that last time. Speaking of Taravangian being a secret bad guy and Dalinar realizing he's been listening to God's last voicemail into the void, what was your favorite part 5 twist? Crabs ahoy from Sasha. So of the many reveals and twisty things in part 5, what was your favorite bit?
Probably I think the most shocking would be the Taravangian reveal, just because of how strongly we felt about that character and how completely that upended. I think that's probably the most shocking one. But if I'm going to be honest, I think the thing that happened in part 5 that was one most surprising but satisfying to me was Dalinar giving up his shard blade.
That is a big one. Yep. Definitely. I don't see that coming, I think.
Yeah, no, it was just a brilliant moment that played off everything that had come before it in the book. And just, it sums Dalinar's character up to a T. That's why we love him.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that the Taravangian reveal was probably the hardest hitting of them, because you're like, this guy's so sweet. Oh my god, no, he's not. So that kind of sucked. Oh god, I just had one on the tip of my tongue. What was it? Oh, reading the bit about when Yasna was explaining about the Voidbringers and that relationship to the Parshendi. Once that line, and I think Dak mentioned it earlier, once it started talking about the singing and it was like that penny drop moment, you're like, oh, I know what she's talking about. And before she'd reeled it, so I feel like that was quite satisfying to read. Right. I liked those two, but there was lots of little bits and pieces that were fun to read here.
All right. Yeah, no, makes sense to me.
I mean, they've already said everything I was going to say.
Okay. Let's do another. We got a couple more emails, then we got patrons and reviews, so make sure you got stuff ready for that, Joe. This one is from Tom, which he sent in a while ago to be read at the end of The Way of Kings. Hello, Sanderlanche crew. It's been a while since I've written, so here I am. This book is the first book where I've been disciplined enough to read along with you guys from week to week, and I've got to say, I don't know how you do it. I just finished reading the chapters for the next episode to air, and I can only imagine what it would be like to be forced to stop here when reading the book for the first time. For reference, we just read chapters 63 through 66 and ended where Adolin and Dalinar have to make peace about their last stand against the Parshendi. I have to say, The Way of Kings is my personal favorite Sanderlanche in the Cosmere. I've reread the book more times than others in the Stormlight Archive, and each reveal at the end of the book comes with its own chills. Sadeas' betrayal, Kaladin's decision to save Dalinar, Dalinar's confrontation with Sadeas, Shallan's reveal about her father, Shallan confronting Yasna, Ghostblood reveal. I bet the crew are going to react even more to this reveal now that we know Kelsier and his ties to the Ghostbloods. The Parshendi Voidbringer theory, Seth's true employer, all of these moments in just a few pages. Every reread surprises me with how much is packed in such a short time. I won't spoil other Stormlight books. They definitely have contention for some seriously packed Sanderlanches as well. The Way of Kings holds a special place for me personally. So while I bet it's been infuriating to not be able to continue on after each week's reading, please accept my appreciation as a listener. I'm grateful that we will be able to space out all these Sanderlanche elements in such a way that we can appreciate the import and weight of the reveals in their own dedicated space. I don't know if you guys are going to go straight into Words of Radiance or not, but I know you guys are in for a treat. The entire Stormlight Archive is quite a journey, and like any journey, it requires a bit of stamina. But hopefully, the way this first book wrapped has helped you guys understand why the series feels like a bit of a culmination of Sanderson's Cosmere works. Wuzzing to the time of next, Colo, Crabs Ahoy, from Tom. Thanks, Tom. I kind of agree that it's, in a way, it must be super frustrating to not be able to turn the page and know what happens next, but also everything kind of gets its own space to breathe a little bit in our discussions, which is also nice.
Sure.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Benny says, "Hey, Sanderlanche crew. Hopefully by the time you get this email, you'll have read the chapter where Kaladin finally says the words, which is very exciting. Not sure if Data will share this, but a fun detail that I don't think spoils anything is that you've been told how Kaladin would get his Stormlight back in chapter 59, and he talks about the epigraph that I read, above the final void I hang, the feast I must drink clings to their faces, that whole thing. We've addressed that multiple times now, so I won't go read the whole thing again, but
clinging to their faces.
All of this to say that some of the blurbs you've been reading may be in reference to events that will transpire in the very story you're reading now. Just something to think about. Regardless, thank you very much for the amazing weekly discussion. It's great to feel like a part of a small book club. Hope you enjoy the upcoming Sanderlanche Crab at thee, from Benny." And then we have one more email. We'll just go ahead and... The final one is from Adam. It's entitled "Turn a Liability into an Advantage." He says, "There's another connection to Tien's death that Data didn't mention. Much like when he brings Lopen into Bridge 4, Kaladin remembers Varth's words when Shen joins Bridge 4. And there's a quote, "The Parchment was dangerous, a distraction for the other men, a factor they couldn't depend on, a liability. Turn a liability into an advantage whenever you can. These words had been spoken by a man who cared only for his own skin." So that's the quote from when Shen joins.
Yeah.
Nah, it's true.
I think this really drives home Kaladin's instinct to protect those who are outcast by society and seen as worthless or disposable. Congrats on finishing the book, from Adam. So yeah, I had forgotten that bit. So thanks, Adam. Good emails. I appreciate everyone who sends emails. If anyone would like to send us an email, the Sanderlanche the Sanderlanche. The email address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter, X, whatever, Instagram, Facebook, and on Patreon, which is where we're going to move to next. We have 2 new patrons on our Patreon, both SKA level backers. The first one is K, just the letter K.
K. You steel runner, you.
Nice. K it up. K is that's Tommy Lee Jones' character from Men in Black, right?
It's true.
Yep.
Or
So-
Josh Brolin's character, depending on what film you're watching.
Ah, fair enough, yeah. And then our other new member is Sam.
Sam. You could only be a Gasper.
Gasper, nice. So if anyone's interested in checking out our Patreon, it's mostly me reading new Brandon books for the first time and recording myself a few chapters at a time and my reactions. Not nearly as interesting as when there's other people around to react also, but if you're interested in hearing that sort of thing, you can join up our Patreon. It's out there. Also, you will get a fairing power if you join our Patreon, just like Joe just handed out. Or if you'd rather a misting power, you can leave us a review. 5-star review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. You have to email me. Even other platforms, if you leave us a 5-star review and send me a picture of it, then we can Joe will give you a misting power. This particular review that we have this week comes from Australia, and this person's name is I Too Hate Moash.
Okay.
So really, I was like, did Dak leave this review?
Dak, yeah, you can't leave your
Yeah.
own reviews, Dak.
Yeah, if you wanted a misting power, all you had to do was ask, buddy.
Just staying out of this one.
There's a lot of dashes in this, and so as I'm reading it, just you can hear where the dashes go, okay, or the hyphens would really be the correct term. The title of the review says excellent, 5 stars, and then the review says your one-stop shop for all your Futurama, Final Fantasy, Dragon Ball, Game of Thrones, Friends, X-Men, Australia versus America, cultural differences, Red Dead Redemption, cute baby noises, theater, cinema, trivia, hillbilly, possum hunter, spook hate needs, with the occasional Cosmere-related digression thrown in as a bonus.
Sure. That's an accurate
we have-
description.
Cover more bases than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of those I didn't remember. I don't remember talking about Friends. I'm sure we have, but I don't
No,
remember.
100% at some point, yeah.
Pivot!
No pivot. So, what sort of misting power is appropriate for I Too Hate Moash?
I Too Hate Moash. Boy, oh boy. Man, what a great review. I had one in mind, but I don't feel like it fits anymore. I'm going to give you a rioter. You really rioted me up with that review.
I see that. Yep. All right. Well, thank you for your review. I Too Hate Moash. That's one of my favorite ones, I think, so far. For next time, as we talked about, we're going to read first the Threnodite System essay, and then move right into Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell. So if you're reading along, it's a big chunk of reading for next time, the essay and the short story, but it'll be fun. This is, I think, the last short story that's not like a Stormlight related one. So we've saved a good one for this point. I think you guys will, I suspect you guys will enjoy this one. The name is metal. You might also call the story kind of metal. So
Awesome.
I mean, that's not to say that the Sixth of the Dusk wasn't also pretty metal.
Minute. Yeah, it was.
That was.
So,
yeah, it was pretty sweet.
If you're following along, read that stuff for next time. That is what we will be discussing. And I guess I should go ahead and make the announcement that after that, we will be proceeding directly into the next Stormlight book.
Woo!
I almost said The Way of Kings. Words of Radiance is the next one,
I don't
not
read
the book that we
one
already
again.
read.
No.
So
Yeah.
line that up next on your shelf, listeners, for where we're going after. This story will almost wrap up all of Arcanum Unbounded for us. One of the Stormlight novellas is an Arcanum Unbounded, so we'll still have that. But other than that, after this one, we'll have finished up the entire thing.
Yep. All right. Well, now it's time for me to give this book a review number because I didn't.
Yeah, Joe does that.
Yeah, I do that. I like doing that. I think I talked about my issues with the book already this episode. It's really just a matter of pacing. This actually had the potential to be possibly my favorite book that we've read, except for the pacing. The pacing brought it down so much for me that I don't think I'm going to rank it quite as high. I think the book I've ranked the highest so far is Lost Metal. As far as full-length books go, I think I gave Six of the Dusk a 10 out of 10. So I think that's the highest thing I've ranked that we've read overall. But as far as books go, full-length books go, I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. It had the potential to be close to a 10, but the pacing just really killed it for me.
Could have been a contender.
Yeah, it could have been a contender. No, I really love all the characters, except for Adeline. He sucks. But all the other characters are great. Even the ones you hate. It's like, oh, man, this is great. Elhokar, he's all right. Jam Addict Capsol, he's dead, but that's okay. Like, he was fun while he lasted. So, yeah, really, really enjoyed this book. I think if the pacing hadn't been so bad that I would have ranked it higher.
Fair. All right. Anyone else want to give some final thoughts on the book now as we wrap it up?
I mean, I liked it. I can see why people are so enthused about this book and this series. With what little I've heard about the series, like, this is like I call a good start to a great series. I've heard people say like the next books are even better, so I'm looking forward to that. I think it was a really good start. My negative thought on the book was mainly just like I feel like I think the pacing was okay. I think it was fine for what it was, but I do catch myself wondering, did we need most of Adelin's chapters? Like, there wasn't. It's probably just setting up for stuff that comes in future books. But I spent looking back on them, I'm just like, there's really nothing that we're getting out of this that we couldn't have got if Dalinar had been narrating it.
Interesting.
Yeah, just like Dalinar's the far more interesting character. I think Adelin's a bit of a weed, which might change in future books. But a lot of his stuff just didn't seem to really build or go anywhere that I could see at this point. Like, there were a couple of his chapters that had some decent insights into his dad going mad, but we could have had that from the other side of the fence, from Dalinar's perspective. So, I don't know. Yeah, I hope we do more with Adelin in the future, but his stuff was probably just the weakest part of the book for me, because I just wasn't as interested in him, and he was in the same place as Dalinar, and his stuff was way more interesting. So, go figure.
I think somebody may have emailed in about this before, because I feel like I've mentioned it on the show, but maybe I'm imagining it. Originally, when Brandon was writing this, Adolin didn't exist in like an early draft, and Dalinar, like the same conflict was there of Dalinar, like, is this in my head? Is it not? And the way that it was written, with all that being in Dalinar's point of view, he just seemed kind of wishy-washy, because at one point he'd be all in on believing the visions, and then at another point he'd be like, no, I'm crazy. Why would I? And so he seemed like an indecisive and not and for that reason not that interesting of a character. And how Brandon resolved that was to put a lot of that conflict into this Adolin character, where Adolin is giving the perspective of, no, I don't believe that. And Dalinar, while he's still conflicted, is mostly leaning the other way towards, yes, I believe in these visions. And that let him be more of a man of action and more of someone that you could be interested in than when he was like this wishy-washy, one chapter one way, one chapter the other way character.
Yeah, okay. So, well, and that sort of makes me think, okay, if Aelin didn't exist in the book at all, that's one thing. That's very different to Aelin existing in the book, but just not having his perspective chapters. So, like, if Aelin is there to create that conflict, not that conflict, but to have that opposing perspective, would it have still worked if we didn't see inside his head and we saw everything from Dalinar's perspective? Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe this is the better way of making it work. I still just don't think it was perfect, but we'll see.
Yep. And who knows what we'll get, if Adolin will fade out in the next book, or if he'll take on some new traits and become more prominent, because he does come off, I agree, in this book in a lot of ways just an appendage to the Dalinar story. He doesn't really have much of his own thing going on, so it makes it harder to be interested in him as a character.
Yeah. But just willing to wait it out and see how characters change and grow. Like in the first Song of Ice and Fire book, I was one of many who hated Sansa Stark. But then in the books that followed, she became one of my favorite characters. So go figure.
Since I only ever read the first two books, I'd never liked Sansa.
Fair.
But anyway, so that's it'll be interesting to see as we move into this. Is like somebody mentioned, a lot of people say that. I think, like you said, this is a good start to a great series, and that the books get better.
That's just what I've heard.
Yeah, I think I feel I probably like books 2 and 3 for sure. I don't know which one of the 4 I would say is my favorite, but I don't think that the first one is my favorite. So I guess we can go with. I like it a lot, and I've reread it more than any of the other ones, partially because it was the first one. That makes sense, but probably not my favorite of the 4 that exist.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Jamie?
Yeah, no, look, I really enjoyed the book. I actually think it's up there as one of my favorites that we've read so far. I like the level of detail. Like, yes, obviously it's a massive book, particularly in comparison to what we've already read, but so there's so much more that you're able to flesh out in there. And I feel like all around it was a more satisfying book. Brandon already took care of the character that I thought was particularly punchable. So, I don't have any real hate for anyone that's left. And I'm quite looking forward to where it's going next. So if the books only seem to get better, then I'm excited to keep going.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up the Way of Kings for us, y'all. So
I'm just gonna throw out there that I haven't brought up this joke, but I keep forgetting to bring it up. When Cabsal died, he was cremated and his ashes were put in a jam jar. Boom, done.
Okay. Yeah. On that note, remember, we're doing the Threnodite essay and Shadows for Silence on the next episode. Music by Miracle of Sound, and Wasing to the Time of Next. Colo, P.S. Fasher. Crabs ahoy.